So let's bring Casey Joyner into the conversation, talk some football. We'll start off with a couple of Eagles questions for Casey as we get ready for the bye week here. But it's an interesting week. Actually, let me start off with the Des Bryant thing. How much of an impact is just getting him back with Matt Castle playing quarterback? I know last week you had told us about Castle, being one of the worst vertical passers in the NFL. But now getting Des Bryant back, how much of an impact will that have on Dallas without Romo?
It's going to help. I mean, if he's even close to being at full strength. But, again, he's going to be battling injury rust. It sounds like that even if he does come back, he's not going to be 100%. It might be 85, 90%. So you've got those issues. And Seattle's defense, look, it's not what it has been the past couple of years, but let's say they put Richard Sherman to shadow him. Sherman doesn't do a lot of shadowing, but let's say in this case they decide to do that. It's a tough matchup there, and Castle can't throw deep. I mean, I think it helps, but that's kind of it's a relative question. Yeah, the Cowboys passing up might be better, but look how bad it's been. So it's going to help, but I don't think he makes a big impact this week.
They play Seattle this week, and just kind of, looking then that matchup there, what are you thinking about Seattle as now they travel the road? Even when they were a Super Bowl team, they are a little bit of a different team on the road than they are at home. We know they have a big home field advantage, but I don't know. I'm having troubles trying to figure out what to make of this team. I mean, they played great defense, but it was against the 49ers. They have a terrible offensive line. So is this the same Seahawks team, or is this a downgraded version?
I think it's probably a downgraded version. They have the worst pass blocking in the NFL according to a couple of different metrics, including ESPN Stats Information's pass protection metric. They're bad, and they're not blocking that well in the running game either. I mean, they're doing better there, but that's a relative term. As far as the Cowboys, the funny thing about the Cowboys is having Bryant back's a great thing, but for them, the running game, the way it looked last week, I mean, Dan McFadden finally, early in the season, there would be holes that he could hit, and he just wouldn't hit them. And he'd be going slow into the gaps. You just wondered, wow, okay, have you just lost your burst? Can you not see that hole in front of you? What's so skinny? And last week he looked like, okay, he could read it up the front, and he was hitting them fast. So I have a feeling that Dallas will use a power running game against Seattle. Remember, it was a couple years ago. They went up to Seattle and beat him with that power running game. I think they have a chance to do that, at home this week.
Yeah, what do you think? I was going to ask you a follow-up with that with Hardy and, getting him back. What do you think of that defense? Because I guess for them, they're going to need that defense to be play at a higher level. They've given up a lot of points. Now, not last week against the Giants, but in previous weeks, they didn't give up a lot of points. But now Hardy back for third week now. What are you thinking of the Dallas defense?
Yeah, I think, again, we're talking relative improvement. Excuse me, they're going to be better, but I still, what they need out of that team is they revolve around the running game. If their power running game is working, it opens up their passing game and it protects their defense. Their defense, no matter all the improvements they've got personnel-wise, even with Hardy improving the pass rush, it doesn't matter if they can't run the ball on offense. It's still not going to be enough. They've got to be able to protect that defense, and that's what's going to be the key for them against Seattle. It's going to be the key for the rest of the season. Even when Romo returns, they've got to have that ground game going to make the whole team work.
We talk about the ground game you see in Philadelphia, Casey. The Murray-Matthews thing has certainly been a topic of discussion in this area. Many people believe that Matthews is the better option here. Is he enough of a better option that could really change some things about this offense, which has really struggled? Meaning, if they gave him and featured him more, do you think some of the deficiencies and problems they're having would change because that he adds a different dimension?
Funny thing is, the run game has been working for Philadelphia the past few weeks. I think they rushed for 177 yards against Carolina. The run game is working right now, and I could see switching Matthews from the alternate that he is right now to maybe a platoon situation, but he's got durability question marks in his past that say that he doesn't handle the bell cow role very well, and Murray can be a bell cow. So the idea that maybe Murray's the back who wears the defense down and Matthews comes in and finishes them off, I think that it's been working the past couple weeks, and maybe you can tweak it, but I don't think I make him the bell cow. I just think I find a way to maybe get a few more plays out of him. I'm still wondering, too, where Darren Sproles has been. I mean, he was a big playmaker early on, and now nothing. So I'm looking for ways to get a few more plays out of Matthews and a few more plays out of Sproles, and then, see if I can get that 177 up to 200 and change.
Yeah, well, it seems that, and I think you're right about the fact that the run game's working, but this is a team that is lacking explosion, and they're lacking, big plays, it seems like, that they always had in the past. So, yeah, their run game seems like it's working, but if you're searching for ways to score, because it's amazing how much they're struggling in the pass game, if you can add some extra ways to score by having a little bit more dynamic play from your running back, you might have to go that route.
Yeah, right now you want to be leaning on. I mean, you've got the trio of Matthews, Murray, and Sproles. Arguably, when they're healthy and playing at their top of their game, I mean, that's as good as any trio in the NFL. So, and to not get as much out of them as the beginning, again, you're still getting 177 yards rushing. You're still moving the ball, but to be able to get more out of them, to get some marginal gains there, that would be fantastic. I don't think it's going to make up for the fact they need to make big improvements in the passing game. But, yeah, can they get more out of that group? Yeah, again, can you get from where he's at to get him to, from what 7 carries a game to 10 carries a game, something like that? Yeah, I think he could definitely do that. And but I still think you've got Murray's the guy that's still going to wear a defense down. You're going to get tired trying to tackle him, and then you use the other two. But I'm looking for those guys to still be the counter punch to Murray's big punch.
All right, I know Monday we talked a little bit about Bradford. Here we are a couple of days later. And the conversation continues. I mean, it's like 50-50. Some people, you got to give them time. The receivers are dropping passes. Well, he's not throwing the ball very accurately. 7 games with Sam Bradford. I saw a piece over at ESPN.com. Your colleague Mike Sandow had a quote from a GM that said, that I don't know Sam at all, but I think eventually when you're in the league, you are what you are. This is, 5 years for him, end quote. And obviously Bradford, he wasn't – I don't think he had the accuracy issues he was having in St. Louis that he's having here. But is Sam Bradford just the guy that we're seeing? Is this who he is?
No. They talk about 5 years. Okay, he was Offensive Rookie of the Year in year one. If you look at what he did in the last year he played for St. Louis, he posted numbers, vertical and stretch vertical numbers. Those are when you're trying to throw the ball deeper downfield. He posted numbers that were in the top 6 in the league in both categories, and he had a mediocre receiving core. So he's done a lot with a little. His whole thing is, can he stay healthy? And that's what I'm thinking about right now is he's got this bye week, and this might be a week where you can say, okay, we can get a reset on this offense. We're doing a lot of things well. We are, you're not making bad decisions like you were earlier in the year. You're not, we've got the run game going. All we need is a couple of tweaks, and we can get this thing moving. And maybe it just takes a week where Bradford gets a rest and gets healthy and comes out and plays well this coming week. Because I'm looking at saying I want to see how he comes out of the bye. Because if he gets out of the bye and he still looks as bad as he looked before, that's going to be a sign that, okay, maybe this isn't a durability question. Maybe this isn't rough. Maybe it's something more, because right now there's still enough instances where you're seeing him make the kinds of plays that he should be making to go, okay, I can still see some upside here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if you're watching the film and noticing some footwork issues or some things, because I guess some questions of, all right, is he mentally through the injury? I mean, meaning is there mechanics messed up because of the fact that he's not mentally through that hurdle? Because it appears that he is healthy. He's taken hits. He has moved around a little bit. I mean, he's not, he's not Andrew Luck moving around the pocket back there, but he still has, moved around to show that knee shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I think he doesn't trust the offensive line still. I think it's gotten better this year, but I think he still doesn't trust the offensive line. He's not doing follow-through on his throws. No mechanics issue. He's not, he's still doing a lot of things correct, but I still get a sense that he thinks that the hits are going to come. Again, that would, if I had to guess, and it gets all, sometimes you're seeing Bradford play really well. There are, you could take quarter of a game here, a half of a game there, and say, wow, this guy looks like an upper tier quarterback. But if I had to guess, it's just a matter of there are just times when a team can rattle him and get in his head. If that's the case, that would be the sort of thing. If that's what it turns out to be, that it turns out that he's actually feeling the pass rush, then it might be time to go somewhere else. Because if the quarterback starts feeling the pass rush, you can't correct that. But if it's just a matter of getting him a little more comfortable with things, then I'm not so worried about it.
Yeah, and one GM quoted saying, I can see someone signing Bradford if he stays healthy all year, and I could see the Eagles just letting him go, suggesting that this isn't maybe the best fit for him offensively. Are you surprised that he hasn't been a great fit in this offense?
I'm surprised, but coming into the season, I compared him to Jim Plunkett, which is going back a bit. But Jim Plunkett was a great quarterback, a Heisman Trophy winner, first pick in the draft. A lot of similarities there. And then he did nothing for about 10 years in his career, and then the Raiders picked him up, and he started. He took over in the middle of the 1980 season and took him to a Super Bowl win, the first of two. The thing the Raiders did, though, is they pass blocked really, really well. They had a fantastic pass blocking offensive line, and that's one of the reasons that Plunkett, who had the same sort of things, feeling the pass rush. He had a lot of the same issues that Bradford did. That's what turned him around. And the thing about Bradford this year is that he's not been getting that kind of quality pass blocking. And I think that was the thing coming into the season. It was Chip's always play called good pass blocking. He's going to be able to keep doing it. I figured that would be the case. It hasn't been the case. And I think you're asking Bradford to survive behind this offensive line. I think a lot of quarterbacks in the league, if you put them behind the kind of pass blocking that Bradford's been getting at times this year, or lack thereof, I think they'd be struggling too. So I'm not quite as down on him as most people are.
The drops have been a big issue, and some would say, well, the drops are because he's throwing behind or high or here, and some of them are coming on them hot. When you look at the Eagles' wide receiving core, is this an adequate enough core?
No. It needs upgrades. I mean, Matthews he's been battling an injury. Aguilar, he's of course battling an injury. We've had Cooper injury. They're going more the tight ends, which is great. But you already had a thin receiving core in the first place. You don't have a vertical threat to speak of, and now they're banged up. I mean, it's asking a lot. And mind you, Bradford can still. Again, he's getting all these drops and things, and that's hurting his numbers. I mean, he can do better on his passes, but if he had a top-flight receiving core, we wouldn't be asking a lot of these questions. We'd be looking for him to be tweaking his game rather than retooling his game. So I think that's part of the reason that Kelly said, I'm happy with my quarterback play, because, look, there are improvements that need to be made, but like, well, if my receivers were playing better, some other things were working out, that, Bradford wouldn't be looking quite as bad. So I think that's one of the reasons the Eagles can be patient with this.
One of the topics of conversation, it seems, with Chip is finding a quarterback that's mobile. And there's a list that Mike Sando put out about quarterbacks who might change places. Do you think a guy like Kaepernick still can play? I mean, he's really struggled. I mean, is he a guy that you think would fit in Chip Kelly's offense?
As much as Chip Kelly is a run-first coach, and he wants his team to be a run-first team, he knows that when it comes to a quarterback, the number one thing is the quarterback's going to be able to throw the football. And if you're not able to effectively throw the football, his system still doesn't work. And I think Kaepernick, for all that he does and all that he can add in the running game, he's still a run-first quarterback. And his passing, if you think Bradford's passing issues are bad, you start breaking down some tape on Kaepernick, you can see, wow, more inconsistencies, bad decisions, inaccuracies, mechanical issues. I mean, it's a litany of problems that he has when things aren't going well and when things haven't been going well. If you put him behind a bad offensive line, he'd be making some of these same mistakes. So I'm not looking, if I'm Chip Kelly, I'm not looking to retool the offense around a rush-first quarterback. And by the way, when he was in Oregon, Kelly had some quarterbacks that could run really well and some that didn't, and his system worked well either way. So he doesn't have to have a run-first quarterback to make it work.
If you are the Eagles, what do you do in this situation with Bradford if he plays status quo? If he doesn't improve and he's just kind of inconsistent, up and down, and the next 8 games, this is what you see from him. Do you bring him back next year?
Do I have a better option? Who do I?
How about Mark Sanchez? Is he a better option? What you saw from Sanchez last year, completed 64%, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I mean, he didn't play awful. He didn't, he won a game down in Dallas. Do you think Mark Sanchez is a better option than Bradford?
I think we've established what Mark Sanchez's ceiling is, and I think, Bradford on his best day is a lot better than Sanchez on his best day. And you've got to play for those best days, because if you just say we're take what we can get from Sanchez, I think you're saying, okay, we'll accept a 10-6 division win, a division title win maybe, and that sounds great, but then we're going to go lose in the playoffs. I don't think that Sanchez's ceiling gets you where you want to go. I think you've got to play for the upside. And I'll put it this way: there's a chance that Bradford can be a franchise quarterback. It's that chance. The window seems to be closing, but there's a chance that he could be that. I don't think there's a chance that Sanchez is that. And you've got to play for the guy who could be the franchise QB.
Yeah, and I would agree with that statement. I'm not sitting here telling you I think that Sanchez is better than Bradford. I just was wondering, basically, have we seen the best of Bradford? And maybe he doesn't. We might think he has this ceiling. And look, Sanchez was the number 5 overall pick. I think he kind of gets a bad rap because of the butt fumble, and of course the Jets were a very run-first, defensive-oriented team. but the guy's got a winning record in the NFL, and he's had some big wins under his belt. Maybe no one's really given him the opportunity to be more than what he is at this point. And I don't know. Maybe we did see them try to do that last year, but he was coming off of surgery, first year in this offense. I definitely think that right now the Eagles have a really tough choice to make, Casey, whether or not they want to bring him back, because I would assume that Sam Bradford's going to have some takers on the free agent market. So if the Eagles want to bring him back, they're probably going to have some competition.
Well, even if let's say they didn't bring him back, you've got Bradford now who's your backup. I maybe reflect back to I'll go even more old school and go to the Raiders of the 70s. They always wanted to have 3 quarterbacks. And when I say 3 quarterbacks, I mean they would have LaMonica as their starter, a guy who could be in the AL if there was such a thing. They had Blanda as a backup, and he's a guy who's in the Hall of Fame, and Stabler was their 3rd guy. He's up for a Hall of Fame nomination this year. They always thought we needed at least 3 quarterbacks, a great starter, a veteran backup, and a guy we can develop who can be our starter in the future, not just a throwaway guy, but to be a starter. So right now the Eagles should have Sanchez as a starter, or Bradford as a starter, Sanchez as your veteran backup, a guy who could come in and win games. So if Bradford's struggling, put Sanchez in there for a game and say, no, Bradford's still my quarterback, and I just wanted Sanchez in there because I thought Bradford was struggling. And bam, you can do that and then establish a 3rd. I think that's the direction you ought to be headed in, because you need to be stockpiling quarterback talent as much as you can, not trying to see if you can get just one guy and then just the rest.
All right, Thursday night football, Miami and New England. Casey, Miami's been playing a lot better. They do have some talent on defense. We didn't see it the first couple of weeks, but they've gotten after the quarterback the last couple of weeks. They're going to New England, obviously a very tough task. But of the teams in the AFC East, does Miami match up the best with the Pats?
Yeah, Miami, they lead the league in a metric I have called good blocking rate. Measures how often an offensive blocking while it gives ball carriers good blocking. They led the league prior to last week, and then last week they actually didn't have a great game from a good blocking rate perspective, but look at what they did. They averaged 16.7 yards per carry when their ball carriers got good blocking. It's an insanely high number. New England has struggled in a number of run defense metrics this year, so I think Miami's going to be able to run the football. New England's probably still going to win the game, but I think Miami's going to give them a big run for their money, and I think they're a team. I think Miami, I wrote about it this week for ESPN's Insider section, they're a team that they're not probably going to win the division, obviously, but they're going to be good enough to contend for a wild card status. I think this is what we've seen the last couple weeks is going to be par for the course for the Dolphins the rest of the year.
Yeah, we do a segment on Tuesdays called "Who's In, Who's Out." I had them in. I think they're the second wild card team in the AFC right now, with the Jets being the first one. Another interesting game. Let's get your thoughts on a couple of these games. New York and the Saints, obviously in the NFC East, where every game seems like it's going to be an interesting one here. The Saints knocked off the Cowboys. They lost to the Eagles. Now they have the Giants here. What do you make of this one down in New Orleans?
I think New Orleans is going to, they've been doing a lot of dink-and-dunk pass from a breeze. Look at the Giants' defense. They come into the Philadelphia game. The Giants had a fantastic set of run defense metrics. They've given up nearly 400 yards rushing the past 2 weeks. Their run defense has fallen apart, so I think New Orleans gives them a heavy dose of Mark Ingram. Problem with that, though, is that if New Orleans wants to do that, they're going to be going to a run-first game, and the Giants are going to go after that Saints defense, which is terrible in about every metric you can pick. And if you've got a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. and Ruben Randle and Dwayne Harris, and you've got those guys being able to go against the secondary, I'll take the high-powered pass offense versus the high-powered rush offense. So high-scoring game, I think the Giants pull that one out.
All right, how about Pittsburgh at home? Probably Big Ben back against this Bengals team. I rank them number 3. They're my number 3 team in my Fine 5 against the Steelers.
Yeah, we're going to finally see the Steelers. I mean, they could have actually won all 4 of the games when Ben was out. They went 2-2. They could have gone 4. Now they could have gone 1-3 also. I mean, they could have been even worse. But they've been playing quite well. Their defense is playing a lot better than what they've been playing. A lot better probably than people think. They're doing pretty good on stretch vertical passes. So I think they're going to be able to go this way. Cincinnati's got a good offense, a very good offense, but I think Pittsburgh could turn this into a shootout game, and I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to go after that Cincinnati defense. The thing is Ben fully healthy? Because if he is, I think the Steelers go ahead and reestablish the norm and win this game. But if he's still a bit banged up, and it sounds like he's still a bit banged up, then probably the Bengals win this one.
I'm interested your take on the Jets, 4-2 going across the country, and also interested on this Raiders team that came out and scored, 35 in the first half last week. But it's always tough going East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah, it is. This is probably the toughest matchup to pick this week because the Jets are playing really well against the run. They've got a good pass defense. Their offense is playing a lot better than expected. But I think the difference is going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick has a 2.2% rate in what I call bad decision rate. It's how often a quarterback makes a mental error that leads to a turnover opportunity for the opposing team. That's the third worst in the league. So it means he's forcing a lot of passes to the coverage, basically, is what it comes down to. I think that could be the difference because Carr is protecting the ball quite well. And if you got Fitzpatrick turning the ball over a couple times and on the road and things, I think the Raiders can pull this one out.
All right, the two primetime games, Green Bay and Denver, offense versus defense. Who do you like? It's in Denver, so is that enough?
I don't think it's enough. I think Peyton's just. I think he's in such a bad way that even if you've got the Packers going up against the Broncos defense, I still think the Packers are going to pull off a tough upset on the road. Because think about Peyton. We talked about the bad decision rate a couple seconds ago. He's got the worst bad decision rate of his career. I mean, he's making one every game. It used to be he'd make a bad decision once every 4 or 5 games. I mean, he's going to give the Packers some turnover chances.
All right, and then I'm interested. Carolina, they're undefeated. People wondering about them. They're going to be at home again, and this Indy team has been a disaster. I mean, it's been a mess. Their schedule's very tough coming up, and I guess they're still the favorite in that division. But can they go on the road and win in Carolina?
I don't think they can. Luck's had some great numbers the past couple weeks, but he's faced 2 defenses that rank in the bottom 3 in the league, or bottom 3 or bottom 5 in the league in vertical passing. So Carolina's one of the top teams against the vertical pass. In fact, I think Luck, you were just mentioning the schedule. Luck's in the next 4 weeks, Indianapolis is a bye, and they face 3 teams that have top 5 defenses in vertical passing. So I think that Luck's going to have some big problems. The Colts' run defense is terrible. They've got all kinds of problems, and Carolina's doing a ton of things well. So, yeah, I think Carolina wins that one.
All right, we'll continue to look at the NFL on tomorrow's show. And, of course, Casey will back on Monday as we get ready for the Eagles and the Cowboys. We'll look back at that Cowboys game because this is a really interesting test for them as they're going to take on a Seattle team. If they win this game against Seattle, that would be a pretty impressive win for them without Romo. I continue to think, Casey, until they get Romo back, they're just not a good football team. And that's the same for Philadelphia and New York. And Washington. I mean, I guess you got to throw Washington in the mix now with all those other teams. It's a 4-team race to the end, isn't it?
It is for the first time in a long time because Washington does a lot of things well. But you're talking every one of these teams is thin, though. Every one of these teams is just, they're already they're paper thin. If you get injuries anywhere on these clubs the rest of the year, I think that might be the decision maker. Because if you get an injury on any of these clubs from where they're at right now, I think any of those teams could drop out of contention.
Casey Joyner, everybody, at KC Joyner TFS on Twitter and ESPN.com in the Insiders section for all his takes on fantasy football, the NFL, college football, and more. We'll talk to you Monday, pal. Take care.
Appreciate it, man.